Hi, folks, and welcome back to the Star Wars Library, where Star Wars is in print, and we go back to the novels of 1979, and we're going to look at the second of the Brian Daley Han Solo adventures today. And we're going to be looking at Han Solo's Revenge, which is the second book in the trilogy. Now, I have it again collected in this omnibus here, which is probably going to be the most common way you can get this. There's going to be, I think there's some newer reprints with different covers on here. You can also get them in paperback, which was a first printing, and then later they came out in hardback. So this is what I have here. So this is really exciting because this is technically the third real expanded universe novel that we're talking about. Again, if you discount the A New Hope novelization. So again, this is before A New Hope when this takes place. And it's about Han Solo getting revenge, right? Ooh. It follows Han and Chewie and the droids Bolex and Blue Max still. We're still following with these characters. And remember, the Empire can still not be used as the bad guys here because, Lucasfilm mandated that they couldn't use the Empire in this. So we're still going up against these different, these bad guys in the corporate sector. So Han and Chewie are broke. They are they have no money, and so they need a job that's going to pay some credits very, very quickly. So they find a job that they say will pay them 10 grand or 10,000 credits. But it turns out to be a slaving run where they're going to be running slaves to these owners in these prisons and stuff. So Han is very morally opposed to slavery because Chewie was an imperial slave, and he freed Chewie. So Han is very much against slavery, and so he decides to take revenge, and so that is kind of the gist of it. Again, I don't want to give anything away in here because I do really like these books. So this story, it takes place in the corporate sector now, and it works with Fiola and Spray to try and undo this. So it is kind of cool. Again, being back in the corporate sector, and again ties into this, and then it pops up again in later EU stuff. But here's the thing. Han Solo's Revenge doesn't really have a lot of impact in the expanded universe. In terms of the book, there's not really much in here that will impact, but it does introduce Galandres, or Galandro, and it kind of sets up a rivalry between he and Han Solo, which is kind of interesting. But then his daughter, Anja Galandro, will show up again in the Young Jedi Knights series, which is returned Ord Mantell in the Young Jedi Knights series by Kevin J. Anderson and his wife, Rebecca Mosetta. And so that's kind of interesting that, again, that character that was referenced way back in 1979 here pops up again in Young Jedi Knights. Now, I don't know if any of you know, I've made it no secret before on other things, but I am a very, very fond individual of Young Jedi Knights, and I cannot wait to talk about that. But and then also too, this came out in 1998, so it was kind of cool to see all this time later, from 1979, and then way later 1998 a character is mentioned. So that's pretty cool. So ultimately, to wrap this up, is this an essential read? No, it really isn't. Again, it's another one of those early Star Wars books that really there's not much, but I do think it is cool. It introduces, that family, the Galandros, which will, have dealings with the Solos. So it might be worth it for that. But other than that, this book is, it's a fun read. I'll kind of give my whole thoughts on the Han Solo trilogy once we get to the last book, The Lost Legacy. But overall, this book here as a standalone, it's a fun read. And again, it's one of those things where you'll probably read it and then you'll forget about what happens, and then you'll have to go back and reread it again to remember, because it's one of those where it's just kind of it's like a popcorn book, for me at least. It's one of those where you just read it, you love it, you enjoy it, but then it's a long time before you revisit it again. And that's kind of how I feel with the Han Solo trilogy. But we'll talk about that more once we wrap up our reviews on it when we get to The Lost Legacy. So that's about it here. Definitely not an essential read. Definitely worth your time. I do think it's a fun read, and I think you'll enjoy it, but definitely not impactful in the grand scheme of things. So, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will catch you next time with another episode of the Star Wars Library. May the Force be with you.